Yep.
All right, we on. Back at it again. Back at it. I'm the futuristic baby boomer.
Lively hair, progressive millennial.
And we have a guest that we've had before. Back, gorgeous, beautiful, vibrant. Back again, Miss Shiyana.
Shiyana's not a guest. She's also in-house now.
In-house.
Of course.
In-house, absolutely.
Yeah, we got a team, we got a fam.
Absolutely. So we back on again. So I want to pick up a thread because we started talking about something like, hold on. Let's save it for the pod. And it's interesting because I made a statement that we were talking about, and we don't want to beat a dead horse because obviously our last episode we talked about politics, and we really talked about the whole Kamala Trump thing and all that. But I did make the statement that I thought, and I think I said that on the last podcast, that I didn't originally find Kamala likable.
Shit, we're going right to it.
Well, I mean, only because
right
I'm curious about, Shiyana's reaction to that. And, we started having a conversation. We said, hold on, let's put it on the pod. Let's put it on tape.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I didn't find her originally likable.
Yeah.
And you're not the only one who said that.
I said the same thing too without knowing that it was a trigger word.
It's not a trigger word.
So, yeah, well, explain why do you feel like
why do I have a problem with that?
Yeah, why do you have a problem
because
with
I want to ask you both.
Okay.
So what makes her unlikable? You were starting to describe that.
Sure.
So start from the beginning. What makes her unlikable to you?
So I thought that she was brilliant, capable, an outstanding lawyer. I thought she was a beast. But I didn't find her to be likable based upon the different engagements that I saw her involved with. For example, when she had the interaction with Bill Barr, where she pretty much told him a new asshole. I was super impressed with that and thought, hey, she was a beast. But I don't think that made her likable. I mean, when she was who's the Supreme Court justice that was drinking beer and accused of sexual assault, and she went in on him, Kavanaugh, yeah, and she climbed up in his ass, and it didn't make her likable. Mm-hmm. But I thought she was a beast. I thought she was super capable. I thought she was just, top of her game. She was a hell of a prosecutor. I could see the prosecutory experience and all that. Mm-hmm. So I was impressed with her intellectually, as a lawyer, intellectually, in terms of her competency and all that. But I didn't find her likable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think I've heard that a lot, not only about her, but about Hillary Clinton and about a lot of other female politicians. And so you've said the same thing. So would you say your reasons for finding her unlikable are along the lines of what O is saying or something different?
I would say in addition to what O was saying, you guys all know I'm more of a feeling type of individual. Intuition is what leads my judgment, right?
Intuition.
Right. And so I'm the guy that can kind of, walk in a room and sense the vibe and kind of tell you the characteristics of all these people. May not be 100% right. And so I lead with that too. I see Kamala on TV.
High EQ.
High EQ. I know a lot of people don't associate that with intelligence that matters, but man, goddamn, it matters. And so just by watching Kamala, the things she says, how she said it, her gestures, she appears to me as someone that is inauthentic when she speak on things. And I didn't know that it was a judgment that I had particularly with just women until I talked about Shiyana, and I realized, holy shit, all of a sudden, I'm being associated with someone who is more of a misogynist because there's like a lot of men associate women with those characteristics. Like, she's not likable. She's not.
Well, you said inauthentic. That's a little different than not likable. So I'm curious because I always thought she was authentic.
Okay, well, that's different. I mean, he doesn't like inauthentic people.
Nor do I.
And he finds her to be both of those.
Yeah,
things.
not likable and inauthentic.
And it could be because she's doing a lot of things saying like, "Oh, I love Gen Z," and things like that, which I mean are like funny little memes and clips that you see on the internet,
which I think are effective.
Yeah, they could be. Yeah, but some people are using that as a joke. Like I feel like some of those clips were used at a recent Trump rally.
Yeah,
right. Like,
right.
But I think the point is, I feel like the things that I've heard said about Kamala for why she's not likable, not just from YouTube, but from a lot of people, are not the same kinds of things that we would say for male politicians. You know, I don't think you would ever talk about a male politician and see him be brilliant and aggressive as a prosecutor and just doing his job really well, and then also be like, but he's not likable for doing his job really well. You know what I mean? I think it's because when we think of we still, I mean, it's 2024, but we still associate certain characteristics to women that make them likable, and being an aggressive prosecutor, or being what some people might call bossy, or being like a very, top-notch leader, or very stern leader, or whatever, very auntie-like. Maybe those are things that we don't like.
Well, my take wasn't even that. Wasn't even based on a lot of education about Kamala. It wasn't even, and I told you that. I've been upfront with this. I don't really know much about her, what she stands for. I'm simply looking at this person, and at a very surface level, and just watching her body language, how she communicate things, and I'm judging based on that. I'm not even going deep into her being a smart prosecutor, and all these different things, and fierce leader. I know, but when I said it's not like I'm saying, your point is, usually people associate a fierce leader that is a woman who stands her ground with, oh, she's a woman, she's aggressive, and she's not likable. I didn't even go that deep with it, right? Because I wasn't talking based on the way she was appearing when she was in those elements. I was just talking about how she delivered her messages.
I don't think that makes that much of a difference, though. I think, like, my point is, we're not using substance to make a judgment on her. I'm not, but other people are. And I think, but I'm saying in both ways. Like, we're talking about, like, we can say that she's an effective prosecutor, she's an effective leader, an effective communicator, all of these things. But because she speaks in a certain way, because she's really aggressive in how she speaks, or whatever it might be, that in that case we're saying, oh, well, she's not quite likable. But we would not. I just have not heard the same kind of folks say that about men.
Of course I would. So let me. So you raise a really interesting point, and I get it, but it makes me think about. You remember Adam Schiff? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Remember when he was responsible for when Trump was in office, bringing the impeachment against Trump. I thought he was a California guy, right? Yeah, he is. Yeah, he was capable. He was competent. He was very good. I didn't think he was likable either. Mm. You know what I mean? Now, I mean, if asked the question, is he likable? No, I never would have used that word to describe him. Mm-hmm. But I thought he was absolutely on point, competent, effective. Yeah, absolutely. In terms of what he did. So, I mean, again, I mean, I don't know that. And I feel you. I mean, I think that a lot of people, particularly men, want women to be likable and to be attractive and to be those stereotypical things. Mm-hmm. And they have a hard time, embracing, women in strong, aggressive, assertive, boss type roles, right? Which that's my fear with Kamala, which is I don't want her to come off as the angry black woman, because I think that can turn some people off. Yeah,
I agree with Shiyana. When we're talking about that role that a woman can play, where a guy plays it and he's like, he gets a pat on the back, he gets promoted. This guy is the leader. He's what everybody wants, and a woman plays that role, and they go, "Oh, sit in your place. How dare you? You're being a little too aggressive. You should be ladylike, right?" And that's what that's your gripe. But that's not what I'm doing here. That is no parts of me, right? And so when I do that, and you associate it with it, because maybe similar things I'm saying is like, is like those are trigger or buzzwords to what like people who feel that way about women and men. Maybe that's what I feel like is coming on me because I feel that way. And it's like, you haven't really seen me criticize a man or say he's not likable. Sure, because I haven't had the reason to do it in recent debates, the things we've been talking about. But I have zero problem doing that because I don't look at men and women and think, this person isn't, this woman shouldn't be playing this position. I mean, in this position because she's a woman. Except, I admit, sometimes we don't even know subconsciously that we have this implicit bias that we may not know about. Mm-hmm. But I check those things too in my mind. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. I just don't, because I can tell a guy I don't think he's likable. I'm just a feeling, energy kind of person. I can easily tell a guy I don't feel like this guy's a likable person.
So that might be fine. You might be, and I've told you this before, you might be like treating men and women equally in your perspective, where you're like, I will tell both of them that they're unlikable. But we also talk about equity, right? And by doing that, I feel like you could be still having some kind of, you're still like feeding into a bias against women. What I'm asking is, if you do feel like you find someone, like find a female politician unlikable, for example, right? Just think twice about why you are finding this person unlikable. Just think twice about it, because maybe you should challenge some of these thoughts, and maybe there are some biases, because just by saying, oh, I treat men and women equally, I don't feel like that's enough, right? That's like that's a question of equality versus equity here.
Well, that's like saying I treat black people and white people the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little hard to...
Yeah.
Right, because I'm like, do you really? Like, and also, like, what does that mean to treat black people and white people the same? Do they deserve to be treated the same in certain circumstances? All that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And so in this case, I think it could be harmful to see Kamala Harris in the same, like, give her the same amount of criticism as you would Trump or any other male politician. I just think we really need to think about how much more qualified she is, how much more she overcame, how much more she had to do to get into this role. Yeah. Which is way more than Trump or anybody else. Right?
Of course. And to that point, look, the things that, I mean, Trump lies incessantly. And he has a very loose, at best, relationship with the truth, and will say pretty much anything, and is misogynistic, and has been convicted of sexual assault and fraud and all kind of other stuff that if he were black or of color or a woman, he wouldn't even have a shot to even be on the stage.
Where?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, that goes without saying.
Yeah,
that goes without saying. But I am curious though, because one of the things that's happened with Kamala and the fact, I mean, right now I had to laugh out loud earlier today because they had a clip of Trump talking about the fact that she's fabricating her crowd size at her rallies.
Oh my gosh.
Which which I think is just him setting up that she nobody was out at her crowds, which means that nobody voted for her, which means if I lost, he's setting up the long road complaint that he's going to make. But the interesting thing, when he was talking about those kinds of things, she's energizing a whole new segment of the voting population that was apathetic before. And I think that's really interesting. And I think that's going to be the thing that carries the day, because young people are feeling engaged. I thought in the last election, the Parkland shooting, the gun violence thing, when the Parkland, students that put together that movement that allowed them to vote, I thought that had a tremendous impact on the outcome of the last election to get Joe Biden in, who wanted gun control. And I think that there's a movement underfoot, and I think it's spearheaded and going to be carried in large measure by young voters.
I think so too. I mean, I'm thinking about how I feel like the reason that we had this switch in nomination and in the nominee is because a lot of young people voiced their opinion, and there was that backlash trickled up to donors and to big political supporters. that movement really went up from the grassroots. That's how I feel. That's what it seemed like on social media and stuff, you know? And same with the vice president nominee as well. Like, I mean, there was so much backlash against some of the other potential picks. And I think it appears that there's a lot of, a lot of favoritism towards Waltz. And we're really excited to see, you know, this young generation be really excited about politics again.
Absolutely.
And they, you know, they're making memes and like all these reels and stuff about these candidates. And so that's something new. I don't think we really saw this kind of like activity
engagement
around Joe Biden and Obama. Like, I don't think we really saw it in the last election, like this kind of activity. Have you? I don't know. You're probably more active on social media than I am.
I mean, no, Obama didn't. He got the real, like, the going knocking on your door crowd and taking action and going and organizing and you know, and being very intentional about meeting people where they are. And Trump was the first candidate that utilized social media to help him get in office. And that's when, you know, we talked about the Russian propaganda with social media came about on Twitter at the time. You know, the Russian bots that helped Trump get in office, all these different things. And now it's not prominent in the way we vote. And so the Trump administration is using it heavy. But sometimes it can be misleading too, because those are not probably real voting. But with the thing is, what's happened with Kamala, I think all of it is just propelling her. Even the negative comments that's online. Sometimes it's like when you hear the no publicity is bad publicity. The things that they're laughing at, the things that they're laughing and making joke about Kamala is making her more human and more relatable to people. Honestly, I'm slowly shifting how I feel about Kamala.
From what to what?
From not likable to, like, she is an auntie.
She is
you
an
know
auntie.
what I mean? Like, I know this auntie because, you know, I grew up with a lot of them. Yeah. And I appreciate someone who laughs at her jokes so unapologetically, you know? And it is like,
if nobody else is laughing with her.
Yeah. Like when she talk about the straws, like, you know, like I feel that, like when I go to McDonald's and get these straws, like it's like made out of the not plastic but the paper straws.
Have you
I'm
seen
like
that clip? She was like at some climate conference and like behind her are the big words like climate, like massive words, and they're like, they said something like, how active are you against the fight against climate change or something, some question like that, where she was like, oh yeah, I'm supportive, but you know, I really hate those paper straws, like they get soggy. I'm not saying the question,
and that would be me.
She essentially went to like the paper straws and how frustrated she is with the paper straws.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is.
She's laughing at her.
Dying laughing at everybody. Is
everyone's
just like
just quiet, and like the camera pans out to like this big word climate behind her as she's laughing about paper straws, and I'm like, dude, how are you? I find that,
and I'm like, I fuck with that.
It does, and that makes her relatable. And I think since she's been on the campaign trail, and since she's been the you know, the assumptive nominee, she's had more of a spotlight on her, and I think she is more relatable, and I think she is more, you know, likable in that regard as well too. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, she's more human. You know, people are connecting with her.
Yeah, and to be honest, you know, there was just a lot of we just never saw Kamala a lot. I never knew a lot about her. I didn't know the individual, what she stands for, and
even when she ran.
Not really. No, and she got, was it Tulsi Gabbard or who that?
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard.
That ripped her apart, honestly, in the debate. I mean, it didn't help her case for me. It just,
I don't remember that.
Oh, she got ripped. Was talking about, you know, how she was responsible for putting prison. Maybe I shouldn't go there because we're on a good note. Maybe I shouldn't talk negative about Kamala. So I learned my lesson.
What did Tulsi say?
No, I'm fine. But, you know, I think that was enough. The rest of the people can go do their own research.
Oh, no.
But nonetheless, I feel like the more and more she's out there, even though like the Trump campaign is trying to like make her feel like she's less intelligent and capable, I think she's become more lovable to people.
And they're trying to say that she doesn't know if she's black or brown.
Yeah, which is a...
Is that still a thing? Has that been put
Hopefully
to
it's not anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, Trump said that she used to be Indian, and then now all of a sudden she's become black, and I mean, that's just
Like, how about she's both?
I know. And then J.D. Vance responded, like in a separate interview, I think with CNN, saying, "Well, they asked him like, what do you think about what Trump said?" He was like, whatever. She might be whatever she wants. She can be whatever she wants, but she's a chameleon. And I'm like, that is
but his wife is Indian.
I know. So I'm like, how? I don't know what he was going. Well, I don't know what they were going with it, but he's trying to say It's interesting because he's trying to stay away from Trump's rhetoric, like this, because his point was weird. Trump's point was weird.
Well, they're weirdos. I mean, that's what Wall said. They're weird, right? But see, that's the thing that's got me, because J.D. Vance's wife is Indian. She's
he has
brown.
biracial kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so how do you embrace Trump and go? I mean, and that whole rhetoric piece and go home at night? I mean, how do you?
Well,
how
that's
do you
why
do
I don't
that?
like politics, because it's just all fake anyway.
I mean,
it's all people all acting the part. They want.
You think everybody who's ever been in politics is fake?
I think some people come in with good intentions than others, but I think at the end of the day, once they get that briefing,
you think Obama was fake?
Yeah, I think he was just great at faking
Being
it.
fake.
I think Obama went in.
Also.
I think Obama went in with the right intentions. I think Obama is a good human being. I think he's for the people. But I think once you go into this system that has already been there, you're a president, you're one person, you get nominated. And yes, you can make a lot of changes, but you're going into an organization with people who's been there for years and for decades. They're like, hello, welcome. Oh, yeah, you think you're about to change some shit. Sit down. Let's talk to you. Let's brief you on some shit. And then you realize, and then you have to compromise a lot of things. You can't make all the changes that you thought you was going to make, right? And so one of the things we knew Obama for is making a lot of, the drone strikes. And no one talked about it. He's such a likable character that people don't really look at the things that he did wrong. No one criticized him. And he was the perfect statesman. So I liked Obama. He made me feel good about America. So I honestly didn't, but that's the thing. Like, you can act a part and no one cares because we don't really know truly what's going out. It's just so bigger than us. It's beyond us. And that's why, like, I don't get caught up too much in politics, because it's like, it's just, we can peek behind the curtain more than before, because back then technology or the internet, all of that, we couldn't see those things, but now we can. And it's like, it's more disrespectful to us because they're lying right in front of our faces, knowing that we know the truth. And they're like, well, you can't do anything about it. We're going to lie to you anyway. So it's even more just disdain. It's just like, it's hurtful. So I don't like politics, man, because they're just like, mostly it's not for the people.
That's particularly true with like the sad stuff that's going on in Israel and Palestine right
Yeah,
now. I mean,
absolutely.
we see a lot more than we would have a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And we don't have to dive into it here, but like, I mean, we have so much more visibility now. And I also wonder, like, it's those kinds of issues that bring out, like, how the best politicians that we love. Like, I wonder how Obama would have handled this kind of situation.
Yeah.
So,
man.
we don't have to dive into it, but just, it brings that, and those are having that kind of visibility will bring out some of the worst in our favorite people.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about this new energetic voting block of younger folks and all that, another thing that's interesting to me is that, this whole, and Shiyana shared with us this underconsumption dynamic that younger Gen Zers are now like, moving to only buy what they need and to only, become minimalist to some degree.
I feel like, we've seen this trend kind of pick up on social media and like in our day to day, but, we're seeing this rejection of influencer culture. It's a rejection of like the typical influencer culture where influencers are essentially like selling us stuff through TikTok, through Instagram, Facebook. And there's this like, I think we've hit like some kind of market saturation with that because we're kind of overwhelmed with how much different types of advertising we're getting and how some of it looks really organic and a lot of it isn't organic. And so I think there's this new wave of underconsumption core is what they're calling it. I feel so old as I talk about this. I'm like, the young kids are doing this cool thing called not like consuming as much.
So put a pin in that for a second.
Yeah.
Do you feel old? I mean, both of you all. I mean, like, you're millennials, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, with each passing year, do you feel old? Do you feel like you're no longer it? Like, I mean, I'm curious because...
To be clear, I will always be it.
I know you will always be
it.
Just
put that down. What were you going to say? Just establish that.
I will say in the public's eye, we're no longer it. And I felt that transition. Like, I remember when I first felt this was when I got hired to go to a gig in New York to shoot this 3-day trip with the students. They were called the MPMS, the multicultural the most promising multicultural students. And they get these students, about 30 of them from NYU and Cornell and FIT, and they take them to these advertising firms. And they're the young, the best, and the brightest. And I'm in the room, and they're talking about Gen Zers and this whole new world where they're going to be the leaders of. And I'm a millennial with the camera in my hand recording these kids. Some of them are sleeping, but the energy around them, I remember it used to be about millennials. And I went, holy shit, like, it's no longer about us.
Nobody cares about us.
No one cares about us anymore. So I did feel that shift. But do I feel old? Absolutely not.
Right. See, I don't feel old. And I remember the first time I said, oh, shit, I guess I am getting old, was when somebody called me sir. Like, I'd never been a sir before.
Oh,
somebody, excuse me, sir. What the fuck, sir?
Yeah. They hit you like a ton of bricks.
Oh, they hit me. Oh, yeah. Anybody, have you been mammed?
I'm not going to talk. I work in a more formal field, so I get mammed quite a bit.
Yeah, mammed quite a bit, yeah.
But the consumption piece is really important because Gen Zers, unlike millennials where we were the hybrid, we still shopped at malls. Like, I grew up going to malls. And I needed to try something on before I purchased it. And I think Gen Zers are inundated with TikTok and Instagram ads from the get-go. And that's most of their purchasing decisions comes from these platforms.
Right.
And so when your social interaction is mixed with purchasing where it's just always in your face at the same time, and the people you think that are your friends, you look up and you admire, and then all of a sudden selling you stuff all the time, I think you hit a wall. And I think that article that Sean is talking about, I think we're finally at this place where the Gen Zers are like, God damn, like, wait, I'm just being tricked here. Something is going on. I don't feel right about, well, first, maybe I'm broke all the time just by being on social media. The place I go to socialize, all of a sudden I'm being like bamboozled into buying some new product. I got all these stuff,
And that's part of it, having all this stuff. It's like, it's also part of this like very active group of Gen Zers that are trying to combat climate change, and overconsumption is a big feeder into climate change and pollution. And so, just for them, it's like rejecting the idea of fast fashion and like disposable goods and
Shiyana and all that, right?
All that stuff. And so it's like if the best purchase you can make for the climate, for the environment, is the one that you don't make, is that idea. And so, I mean, that's true. Like, overconsumption is a really big problem. But for them, it's like, we want to not only consume less, but we'll thrift more. We'll get secondhand clothes. And we talked about this the last time we were here, I think, with my sister. But
see, I think that's so incredibly healthy. Because, I mean, and admirable, because... I get it. If you were from the womb, as soon as you were born, somebody put a cell phone in your hand, and you've been on social media being pitched and having to consume that content on a 24-hour basis, to be able to, extract yourself from that whole mentality is hella impressive, man.
It is.
It's having a moment. Thrifting and secondhand consumption, like Facebook Marketplace, like Goodwill, all these places, and DC specifically is like a really cool hub. They have like a very serious thrifting culture here, though. I don't think a lot of people know about unless you're in the know.
Right. Yeah, I think the pendulum is swinging the other way for the first time, right? I think if there wasn't a equal and opposite force to kind of, make the Gen Zers aware that, hey, you're contradicting yourself by what you're trying to accomplish, then I think social media, the what do you call it? The fast market, not fast market, but fast fashion would have won. But if you have Gen Z are like, okay, what is the biggest concern for our generation now? And all of them are probably aligned with saying, well, climate. And then they're being inundated with all this fast fashion. At some point, there's going to be a crossroads. It's like, wait, am I for climate? And am I doing all the things? And what I'm doing here, shopping and getting all these things, it's counterproductive. So, oh, damn it. I've been fooled. I've been tricked. Let me stop this. Let me simplify my life. And I think that's probably where the pendulum is swinging.
I think it's like a rejection of capitalism overall. Like there is that counterculture that runs in all of the newer, like the younger generations. I mean, millennials also had that, right? But I think for Gen Zers, they're just really frustrated by overconsumption as a symbolism of like the old guard, of like getting us to consume things we do not need.
Yeah.
Well, see, here's what I find really interesting. Because at the same time that this whole underconsumption dynamic is happening with Gen Z, at the same time, one of the things that we looked at in terms of topics to talk about today is the fact that millennials have financially had a tremendous upswing. And it really breaks down interestingly between if you were able to buy real estate before 2020 as compared to not having bought real estate after 2020, it's a completely different divide between the millennials that have and the ones that have not, which is fascinating. Because what happened after 2020 was housing prices exploded and stock market exploded. So if you were able to get in and buy a house for, let's say, $215,000, that house is now worth $500,000, right? If you were able to put any money into the market before 2020, now it's doubled or quadrupled or tripled or quadrupled, So it's creating this divide.
Is it just with housing or just investment period?
It's
like
both.
If you invested in Bitcoin, if you invested in the stock market.
It's both.
Real estate.
Relative to where things were and where they are. And so the fact that now the disparity between where millennials were relative to where boomers were in terms of the amount of wealth that they had, that gap is narrowed significantly. But there's a huge wealth gap within the millennial culture based upon what you were able to do before 2020 versus post 2020, which is really interesting.
Okay, that's an interesting fact. Yeah, I don't really.
I think, for housing, it was very specific to, folks didn't want to be in an apartment anymore, and they just wanted to buy a home. And if you were lucky to get a home before the pandemic, before lockdown, then that's kind of how it ended up.
Right.
But also, I'm just thinking, looking back at the last couple of years, I don't think we've had so many major events happen on, such a frequent basis, making the market so volatile, making the market so unpredictable as they have since the pandemic, since the lockdown.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the last couple months, what just happened? We had an assassination attempt. We had a switch in nominees for the Democratic ticket, which hasn't happened in my lifetime,
Right, absolutely. Or mine.
Yeah, and we haven't had a female, Black or Asian or presidential nominee, period.
Right.
It's just there's just so many things, so many firsts that are going on and so many major world events that are happening. I'm just no wonder we can't get a house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No wonder the market is just so you have to really be a skilled trader to be able to anticipate where the market might go and when like the Fed's going to actually cut its rates or when it's you know what I mean, like you need to
I think
really
we're set up for a rate cut in September.
Yeah, we're like, let's see, it's July. Something was supposed to happen
August.
in July, right? Or August.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, now I think I think we can pretty much bank on the fact when we're going to get a rate cut in September.
Which means like, I mean, there's also fears of like a recession maybe coming by, right? Like there's just so many things that are happening on like a bi-weekly basis.
Yeah.
That I am not surprised that this generation cannot keep track of all these different market events. Like I said, you have to be a real professional to understand the market at this point. So,
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and it's a really interesting time, and unfortunately, and I think every generation, for the most part, doesn't begin thinking about what life is going to be like down the road until way too late.
I mean, if you I just think about like how many of my friends have kids, how many are married, how many are not even close to getting married or close to finding like a life partner of sorts. That's also like a very interesting trend because that kind of like aligns to like when you might want to buy a house, right? And so many of my friends are not even like a lot of us are not even close to finding like a person or like a chosen family that they want to like spend their life with.
Do you find that's happening like at an older age than what it used to, or is
like
it just
marriage or like partnership and stuff?
Yeah,
I think so. Much older. I mean, my mom, she had her second kid at my age. So and I don't feel like we're that far apart, right? So, but that's nowadays like. I mean, most of my friends, they're not dating. They're just like really focused on their career or they're focused on themselves. They've kind of not given up, but they're just like, it's not my time right now, so it's not my time. So
what's driven that dynamic? Because I know there's a dissatisfaction in general with dating apps, right? That's been there for a minute, right? People are like, yo, this is a waste of damn time.
Yeah. There's like a rejection, again, with like the younger generation of the dating apps.
Yeah. But so how are you... if you're not doing dating apps, how are you in places and spaces to be able to connect with people to form relationships? Like, how's that working?
You meet them at the thrift store?
It's not working. I mean, marriage is no longer the goalpost for a lot of people. Buying homes and settling down is no longer. People are trying to find a hybrid option. We're at another crossroads. We are for the first time trying to grapple with technology becoming so advanced and it being a part of a core part of our life. And how do we blend the worlds? I think a lot of kids that are growing up, they have unrealistic expectation because of what they see online. So
of course, social media makes you think you should be eating at Nobu and Ritz-Carlton every day and living, going to the Maldives and going to Ibiza and hanging out and doing all this when it's like...
Their measure of success is really warped. It's different. So I don't think they have the idea of this foundation of what the boomers or the Gen Xer had, where in order to obtain this is the roadmap to that. They're seeing just the results. Oh, sometimes they're not even seeing the result. They're seeing a lot of people faking it. And that's what they're inundated with, and that's what they're aspiring to be. So their measurement of what it takes, what do I have to do in the real world to accomplish what I see on social media is so distorted. So, and then you couple you add like dating. Before, it was, especially if you're not in college, if you're just out in the real world, to be able to find a partner, a person, you had to be in the right place. You had to walk by that person, see them. You have to see if there's mutual attraction, go and talk to them, take them out on a date, court them.
That's
all of
what
that.
It used to be back in my day.
And now it's just like, oh no, swipe left, right. Okay, let's go out. Okay, let's have sex because YOLO, and then I like you. And then all of a sudden I don't like you anymore. So I'm going to go back on the apps. And then swipe left, swipe, meet another person. And then
just go back on the apps. Whatever.
So people don't really realize that, when you stop liking a person is when a relationship starts. That's when the honeymoon phase is over and you have to make the decision. So people don't, Younger generation are so like distorted with what's real and what's not because of the virtual world.
So what you're saying is that relationships are like transactional, right?
Very transactional.
But that's
A
not
lot
how
of things
you
are
build a
transactional.
connection with somebody for a long-term relationship.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, this is the beginning of a new era. This is the beginning of a new world. This is the crossroad where we get to. It can either be a solar punk world or a cyberpunk world.
What's solo punk versus cyberpunk?
You asked a question. I mean, that's just the kind of way that it's just more of, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the world? Do you feel like do you feel like technology is going to really be controlled by government? It's going to be regulated in a way where only the rich get to be richer and society just kind of like fall by the wayside, where the regular people, the mass population sort of like disintegrates. It creates this cyberpunk type of world. Or are you optimistic about the world? Do you feel like, resources and technology should be abundant? Do you feel like sustainability is the way to go, where everybody can exist in this harmony and balanced world, which is known as the solar punk? So I think we're approaching that, and we're at this crossroads where the decisions we make will lead to either or the other. So yeah, and I think on the road to that is a lot of confusion. There's a lot of like not knowing, like technology is happening rapidly than we can wrap our minds around. So that's the result of it. People are confused, then you have the gender wars. You have all these different things that are happening where it's just like, whoa, what's going on? Society is at a crossroad.
Yeah.
So I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would get that. I mean, because this whole, gender fluidity and all that kind of stuff is, I mean, I don't even know how that impacts the whole overall mix.
Yeah, I mean, we were going on. I mean, one of the examples I think about was the recent Olympics when the boxer was Algerian boxer was
knocked out the Italian boxer.
Yeah.
Did she even knock her out, or she just kind of jabbed her?
I don't know.
She won.
She jabbed her. It was like, I think 15 seconds into the fight, and she jabbed her. And
it's the hardest hit of my whole entire life. I'm like, yeah, you're at the Olympics. Bro.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Where do you think you're gonna get the hardest hit of your life?
And I don't even know if it was, but more so she was just under the pretense like this is a man, so she just kind of assumed like she was gonna kind of gather empathy on her side, because it's like, this is a transgender that is fighting a woman, and it backfired because it was an actual woman that was just hitting hard as a bitch.
You're familiar with the story?
No, not in all details. I mean, I remember she was being pretty heavily hazed on social media, and then she ended up winning the gold, right? I mean, that was an overarching message.
Who
right?
did? The Algerian boxer?
Yeah.
Oh, was she getting hazed? I mean, people were saying that she didn't pass like testosterone tests, like testosterone level tests and stuff like that. But she just apparently has like higher testosterone levels than other people, is really what it came down to. But she was able to compete.
Was she trans or no?
No, she was born a woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's had higher testosterone levels than I guess is accepted in some competitions, or they came out inconclusive in terms of thresholds. But I mean, some people will say it's like, it's like dinging Michael Phelps for having longer arms and like disproportionately longer arms than the other swimmers, or something like that.
Shit, if I stand next to Shaq, he could probably, Kevin Hart said he could smack with his balls. You know what I mean? Like that's just like there's a lot of.
You just wanted to like give us that graphic image, didn't you? Like what was that point? What was that?
I didn't need that.
For?
I didn't need that.
I wanted to give us that visual.
I'd have been fine without that.
I'm just saying, like, yeah, even the same sex, like the same gender, the abilities.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, but it's. What's up, Shaq? But I this whole thing is it's interesting because I agree that when it comes to sports, you know, transgender athletes competing in women's sports, typically it's unfair. And, you know, I don't know if you can all of a sudden reverse that testosterone that you've had, especially if you've passed 14, 15, you know, and your muscle, your bone density and all these different, your muscle mass, all these things have really developed, and all of a sudden you take estrogen pills and you transition, and now you want that, which is fine. You can do whatever you want. But as far as competing, I just think it's just a little unfair. I've just never seen the reverse where a woman transition into a man and go and compete in MMA. It's never heard of. But I do see men transition and go and compete in women's sports and dominate. Right? There's something to be said about that. And if you're questioning it, just think if I always look at it from, if I had a daughter, I train like she wants to be all that she can be. She like is dedicated and spent all her life training to be this thing in this one sport, and she gets dominated by a guy who was biological male who transition. It feels unfair. That's just, I mean, that's just what it is for me when it comes to sports. But in this case, I think that's what that lady was banking on. And she thought that, you know, people was going to be on her side with it. And she kind of she missed the mark because she was competing against an actual biological woman.
What was your overall impression about the Olympics? I mean, did you really watch it? Did you pay attention? Did you think it was, were you proud of the U.S.? What were your thoughts about the Olympics?
I didn't watch it super actively like I typically do.
Highlights, baby.
Yeah, we just watched the highlights. Thank you, Instagram. I know TikTok probably had some stuff. I'm not on there. But
YouTube.
yeah, so I just watched the highlights, and honestly, for me, it was more like watching Simone Biles come back. Like, it was a comeback. People forget that she didn't compete last year or last Olympics, right?
Yeah.
So seeing her do this major comeback was just super exciting to show, like, not only did she come back, but she dominated.
At 27.
Yeah, which is considered talk about
old.
Old as hell.
That's super old.
Yeah, no,
when the average is
ancient.
getting 15, 16, and she's 27 and dominating.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, for Olympics, like, you're young, you're much. I mean, for the gymnastics,
Absolutely.
gymnastics, you're much younger.
Oh, no question.
27 is older for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Definitely ancient.
Absolutely.
Gymnastics, sadly.
And she crushed it. I mean, so my thought, there were a lot that I didn't watch. I didn't watch the fucking breakdancing. I didn't watch,
I've been watching
I didn't
that.
watch.
Oh my God, go Ray Gun.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. That was wild.
No, I didn't watch that shit. But
You'll feel disrespected if you did.
yeah, no, that
She has
is
a
just
PhD in breaking, apparently. Did you
a
know that? I didn't
PhD
know.
in breaking.
It shows.
That's where she went wrong.
It looked like it.
Yes,
Because most break dancers are not, they're.
that's some
looked like
that's some breakdance bullshit.
Yeah, it looks like she's studying instead of.
Simone Biles, for me, I mean, it was must watch. I tried to be wherever I could to watch her compete. I mean, she's just a beast. Yeah. The men's basketball, that was Steph
the
Curry.
most epic.
Let me tell you something. I watched that game live. I watched Serbia, and I was able to watch the gold medal game. And I thought in both of those games, the U.S. was going to lose. And in the Serbian game, it was LeBron, KD, and Steph that got the win. In the gold medal game,
It was Steph.
Steph Curry beasted out. It was awesome. And then
It's incredible.
Katie Ledecky, the swimmer, awesome,
Right.
absolutely awesome. And then of
Hometown
course
hero.
Sha'Carri Richardson in sprinting. Noah Lyles. I mean, I got a chance to watch.
He's not likable.
No, he's not.
He
is
is
not.
not likable.
He's not.
I do not
likable.
like Noah Lyles.
Yeah.
Guess what? I don't know shit about that dude.
Oh my
But
gosh.
He's
from
not
his
likable.
presence on TV, what
No,
he says,
he's not
likable.
I don't know.
He's not likable. He's
I
not
don't know.
Perfect
likable.
He's an
example. I'm so
athlete,
happy this
like, I
came
don't know.
out.
He's not
Okay.
likable. You like him?
Full circle.
I have no opinion about him. I'm like, he's an athlete. He should be proud of himself. He should, he worked really hard.
I'll tell you.
I don't know.
Let me tell you something.
What did he say that like really rubbed you the wrong way?
Yeah, no. I don't like
So Noah Lyles, first of all, as an athlete, you should there should be a collective mindset to what it takes to be able to get to the level that you're at, and that path should come with respect, dignity for your fellow athletes. Mm-hmm. Noah Lyles does some things where I'm like, how is a champion have this kind of mindset towards other champions and athletes?
What did he say?
Okay, so here's what he said. He said this is some time ago, right after the NBA.
Oh, we're going further back, yeah.
Well, this is where he's catching shade.
Oh,
from.
the
first
NBA
time.
comment?
Yeah.
Because champions of what?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Champions of what?
Because the NBA,
right.
the Celtics won the NBA championship and they were the world champions. And he said, so how are you the world champions when all your teams are in the U.S.? Like champions, how you world champions?
Yeah.
How does that work? That don't work. And the shade he caught was after the U.S. won the gold, they were like, are we world champions now?
Yeah.
I mean, they've been winning the gold. I don't know why.
No, but they could have lost that. They could have lost it easily. And he walked back. He walked back his comments.
Can I add the second one?
Yeah.
So recently, the young phenom often has been compared to Michael Jordan. What's my boy name? Ant-Man.
Oh, Anthony
Edwards. Adidas invited Noah Lyles to Anthony Edwards. Was his shoe announcement or something of a sort. And Noah Lyles felt disrespected because he's like, how are you going to invite me to some guy shoe announcement when you didn't give me a shoe deal and this guy doesn't even want a championship? Who is he? Why am I going there? And it's like, bro, like it's one thing to say, hey, I deserve a champion. I deserve a deal with you guys as well. I think, I'm a notable athlete. Give me something. But the shit on another man's success, it's just weird. It's just weird. That's a weird thing. And it's not of a champion mindset. And so Noah Lyles is not likable in my book. He's a cornball as a dude. Like, forget all of his damn gold medals he's won.
These are very good reasons to not like him.
He's a shitty dude. Yeah. Like,
I'm just saying. But you guys are not saying, well, he ran that race so fast. Just didn't like how he finished it. Didn't like how he stuck his head out a little too far. It's none of that. It's not like, oh, I don't like him because he did his job so well.
Yeah.
Like some female politicians we do that with. I'm just saying. It's different. It's different. We're like, oh my gosh, she destroyed that guy on the bench.
But you was more so talking about description, like the fact that we associate not likable with characteristics of women, where we don't say men are not likable.
I'm not just saying we're not saying that men are not likable. I'm saying like the reasons are just not substantial with women. Like for women, it's just like, she did such a great job. Just don't like how she did it, so she's not likable to me.
That's fair. That is fair.
Mm-hmm.
That is fair. I mean, I like how Kamala tore Bill Barr a new ass when she was, interrogating him. But
like you wanted her to be your lawyer.
Absolutely,
but you definitely wouldn't like
absolutely.
her.
Yeah. But I didn't find her to be likable in that moment.
Yeah, and that's a common
But again,
issue.
I'm not getting a lawyer because I like him. I'm getting one because I want him to be able to kick some ass, and she can kick some ass.
Yeah.
That's why I think if she debates Trump, I think she's gonna tear Trump. And I think I just don't want her to be too. I don't want her to be too aggressive because I don't want people to respond the way you fear they might, and I don't want that to erode her popularity that she's building. And I think it's very easy for her to naturally just go in because I mean, it's one thing if your opponent has very little flaws. But if your opponent is one big ass flaw, it's easy to go in.
Yeah.
And I just don't want her to be too aggressive in going in on them.
I just have a hard time seeing how people can not like her for that because again, I see her as like an
but
auntie.
you're a boss, and so you're gonna like another female that's a boss.
I get that part. Like I get a lot of women who are
Yeah.
like who see her as a role model would feel this way, but also like I just see her as like, you know, she gives me auntie vibes for real. So like even if I'm like, when you see your auntie being that way, you're not like, oh, she's like, yeah, you don't like her for the moment, but she's still your auntie.
Yeah,
you know?
my auntie would never run for president or win because that's too much sauce for America, right? You know what I mean? Like a lot of people can't identify with that. And I think it's important to discern the difference, knowing that, okay, I know like at home, this thing flies, but for the American public, what is necessary for this person to win? Maybe this is not a trait that wants to be displayed, you know? And I think that's, I don't know. Like, but I get your point though. I hear what you're saying about, you know, associating certain characteristics with a woman that, you know, when it comes to a guy, it's just not the same. It's more, they're actually loved for it and they're praised for it. Where a woman does the same thing and it's like, oh, you're not likable.
That's my issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I don't think that's the same thing I was doing, but I get what you're saying. No, I get why you feel that way and you associate it with what I was doing.
I'm saying there's a risk of you contributing to it. So
true.
just think twice.
There is a risk, but that's where it comes to the individual. You know me, right? So it's like if a stranger was doing that, you can discern. You can go, you most likely are probably doing that, but you know me, and so for you to associate me with that, it's like also like, can you discern the difference and know that even though it sound like it, but this guy who is not associated with all the other things, so therefore he's not doing that.
I mean, that's fine. That's you. That's not a lot of people out here.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, because you know him, but you don't know everybody else that may be. And that's
so I have the responsibility to not say
I'm
that.
saying I'm not saying not to say that. I'm saying you need to recognize that you're saying something similar that a lot of other people are saying,
right?
That are not being as discernible as you are. You know.
Sure. So I have the responsibility not to say it.
I'm not saying don't say it.
But I said it with you, and you.
I'm saying you're contributing to it. So just think twice. Evaluate why you're critiquing her.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. Fair.
Because with Noah Lyles, like, it's very clear why people don't like him.
It is very clear.
Yeah.
Very clear.
As opposed to like, I'm just not feeling him. You know what I mean? You know why.
Yeah, no. You absolutely know why.
But he did get that. What he got? No, I think he got bronze. I was gonna say bronze.
No, he got gold.
He got gold, but then he got bronze in the relay.
Right.
While he got,
yeah. And then he put a
COVID.
mask on saying he had COVID. You got bronze. I have got COVID.
And then the next day he's in the club like partying and shit. Oh yeah.
Oh my, really?
Yeah.
Not likable.
Okay,
not likable.
I might have just joined that club.
All right, y'all. Well, look.
Oh man.
Look like we coming to the end. This one.
Mm-hmm.
Shiyana, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you here. All right, everybody. Till the next time.
Till next time. Peace.
Peace.